Yo, what's up guys? Today we're going to be talking about patch 6.1D. So just getting right into it, Zilean will be coming out on June 13th. Not really going to talk about him right now because that's a month away. We'll talk about Zilean when he's closer to coming out. Going into the champion changes then, Ambessa is getting reworked and it will come out June 26th, so in about 2 weeks. But basically, her passive damage is getting slightly nerfed. It's getting buffed in some aspects, nerfed in other aspects. So I don't actually know the math on it for like when it's going to be stronger or weaker. And I'm too lazy to do the math. You know, I'm not a very good YouTuber. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But I think overall the passive damage, based on how they're saying, is getting nerfed. And then the first ability damage is getting buffed. Again, we won't go into detail because there's not really a point. Like, you guys don't really care about that. You just care if the champ is stronger or weaker. And that's mostly what you need to know. So first ability damage overall getting buffed in terms of the burst damage. It's going to do now part of the target's max health, but a little bit less AD scaling, a little bit less base damage on some of the first ability things. But overall, I believe it's more damage. Again, too lazy to actually do exact math, but that's what they say here when they describe it. So I'm going to assume they're not lying to me, and if they are, you can blame Riot Games. Second ability, basically now you become immune to crowd control for 0.5 seconds when you cast the second ability. Second ability is the one that gives you the shield and stuff. Cooldown goes up by a second at every level. Damage is getting buffed on the second ability as well, and more damage when you successfully block it as well. Then the ultimate, they're removing her reset passive, which makes me very happy because that passive was very broken. So she no longer gets resets, no longer gets her abilities back, energy restored, that type of thing after leveling up, or after getting a kill rather, or a takedown. And they're removing the thing that restores her health as well. And now the new passive, she'll gain some armor penetration and some ability vamp. Again, each time you level up, you get more. And then health restore from the minions is reduced to 25%. From monsters is reduced to 40%. And then there's also an active where now when you're unstoppable, clicking your ultimate, you get 30, 40, or 50% damage reduction depending on your level. So overall, she's basically going to be better as like a combat champion, better in a 1v1, better top lane, but probably a bit weaker at like 1v9ing a fight from the reset. So you're not going to have as many of those crazy moments where you 1v4 a team after getting a reset. So I like the rework. I think this champ might be a bit too strong based on all the damage buffs and everything. We'll see based on, you know, the actual gameplay once we see it, because you can never really tell until you actually see it in the game. But overall, I think she's going to be much stronger in Baron lane overall. So yeah, that's about it for the rework. Okay, then we have Fiora. So Fiora now, they're adjusting the passive, so it will reveal and mark vitals on nearby champions for 2 seconds instead of 1.75 seconds. Not really the biggest change, I don't think, but a little thing. And then the duration of vitals marks will now change with the grand challenge, which is your ultimate level up. So when you level up your ult, duration of the marks will be reduced. And then with the first ability, with the lunge, the speed of it is impacted by movement speed, so I guess movement speed will be a bit better on her now. When you get more movement speed, for example, like when you're ulting, so I guess it can be useful in that type of thing, or if you're hitting boots, obviously that type of stuff. Now you may select a neutral or enemy target that's basically like anyone with the lowest priority. So you can now first ability undo a ward, first ability traps, first ability fruit, that type of thing, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I think that's cool, I guess. Not really a huge thing. And then the search range of the vitals is increased, so I assume that basically means that like you can be a bit further away from someone and the vital will still pop up. And then the basic damage of the vital is getting lowered. I'm pretty sure this is a typo here. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to say 110 at the end. It's supposed to go down to 75, 85, 95, and 110, because that'd be pretty weird if upgrading your first ability all the way made it 10, I'm assuming. And then the ultimate, you cancel. So like normally, when you would ult, you'd have to wait 0.5 seconds before you could actually hit the vitals that you ult. But now as soon as you ult, you can immediately hit the vitals, which is actually really good for comboing and will make like Fiora combos a lot cleaner and smoother. And then again, as we said, the passive now 0.25, 0.5, or 0.75 seconds reduced for marking vitals. And then the ult no longer stacks runes. So overall, I don't think it's anything huge. It's kind of like quality of life changes for Fiora. They do make her stronger. Like, there are some things, but overall, it's pretty small, so I wouldn't really say this changes her place in the meta. To me, she's still weaker than like a Fiora or I mean, she's weaker than like a Jax or Camille type of split pusher, but she's still decent. But yeah, nothing really crazy overall. Okay, then Darius' passive damage is getting buffed slightly, with full stacks also getting buffed, and then damage to monsters also getting buffed. So Darius jungle going to be a bit better, and Darius in general is going to be better. I think Darius is already a strong champ, so I think this is pretty good. I don't think any of these changes are huge, but definitely I would say Darius is going to be a pretty strong champ in the meta. Then Jax is getting more damage to monsters, so Jax jungle is definitely going to be a bit better as well. I do think Jax, you know, is a decently strong champ, so in the jungle you could definitely try him out. Only problem is sometimes this team fighting can be a little bit not great, depending on the game, but if you're playing into like a lot of auto attackers, for example, then I would say that Jax is going to be a really good jungler. Then we have a buff to tank Nunu, so now your damage bonus is going to increase by 6% instead of 5% bonus health on your first ability, and then your health regeneration goes to 12% from 11%, and then your shield value on your ultimate goes up by 5% at each level as well. So overall, tank Nunu going to be better. I do think it's actually a decently good buff. I mean, nothing insane, but tank Nunu right now will be solid for sure if you're one of those people who likes playing tanks, who likes playing those kind of ganking heavy champions. I think it'll be really solid right now overall. Okay, then we have a Fiddlesticks buff. So Fiddlesticks' second ability is getting an increase in base damage per second and an increase in health regeneration when damaging champions, and then the ultimate cooldown is going down by 10% or by 10 seconds each level. I don't think this really does much because I think that Fiddlesticks is too one-dimensional, pretty much has to rely on getting your ult if you have a ward, or if you're just aware, or if you even have stasis or whatever. Like, it's not going to do that much damage to you. So I just think this champ is pretty bad. I still think it's pretty bad. I don't really think this changes anything overall. Then we have Pantheon, whose first ability is getting 10 more base damage every level and 10 more crit strike damage at every level. Again, I really think this changes nothing. Like, it literally is a tiny thing. Very rarely going to actually change the outcome of any type of fight. I don't think this matters. I think Pantheon is average champion, good early game, falls off a bit in the late game. Nothing crazy. You can play him, but I don't specifically recommend it. He's still not going to be that strong overall. Okay, then we have a Diana buff. So her passive now is going to do 5 more base damage. And then her third ability is going to have slightly more base damage every level after level 1. And it's going to have 5% more AP scaling. So again, these are a lot of small changes. Like, this is obviously nice, but not an insane damage increase. I still think Diana is overall pretty weak compared to like other assassins like Echo, for example. But I don't think she sucks. I mean, you can play her, she's fine. Just I really don't think this changes much. Still not great in the meta overall. Okay, then we have Katarina, whose health per level is going up from 128 to 136. And then her passive damage is getting slightly increased as well, because now instead of doing champion level times 4, it does it times 4.5. And then the second ability movement speed is going from 40, 50, 60, 70 to 50, 60, 70, 80, so up by 10% every level. Again, I don't think it's anything huge. I actually think Katarina is a really good one-trick champion. If you're a one-trick Katarina, like, you can abuse bad players really easily, and in ranked you can really pop off with this champ because people don't play properly around it when they're like not coordinated, as they aren't in ranked games. So I think this champ is actually a good one trick, and I think buffing it makes it even better one trick. But if you're like not really good at the champion, you probably aren't going to take advantage of the fact that the champ is overall actually strong. So basically, if you main this champion, you're going to be happy. If you don't main this champion, you're still going to feed on it, and that's pretty much it. And another small buff to Ahri. So Ahri is getting 30 more base health and then 5% more AP scaling on her first ability. And then her second ability, basically now the target searching range is going to be increased if you basic attack or charm an enemy or a monster. And then it also says that DW will be cast quicker with the enemy targeted. So again, not anything crazy. I actually thought Ahri was pretty strong overall already, so I think she's going to be really good right now. She already was, and yeah, I mean, this scaling helps a bit. So if you're an Ahri player, you'll be happy. Again, I don't think this changes her place in the meta that much, but I do think it makes her a bit stronger overall, which is kind of the name of the game with a lot of these changes. Like, these changes are generally pretty small, and just, you know, make a champ slightly, you know, you'll win 1 or 2 more interactions within a game. Maybe you'll get a kill you wouldn't have otherwise gotten, but for the most part, it's not going to change much, like, as a whole with this champion, and with a lot of the champions in the patch. Okay, and then the most puzzling change of the patch for me is that apparently everyone sucks at Yasuo so much, kind of including me, to be honest. Every time I play Yasuo in ARAM, I kind of go 0-10. Apparently made Riot think that this champion is not broken, and so now it got buffed for some reason, because its win rate's probably really low despite it being broken. So the passive shield is going up a bit, and now will scale with 100% of your crit strike rate. Nothing crazy, but it is increased. Then the first ability damage gets more AD scaling, and more AD scaling with the crit strike as well. The third ability now will have 1 second lower of a cooldown to cast on the same enemy. I don't think that's a huge thing, but small. And then the armor pen from your ult is going up from 30% to 50%. I think that armor pen is after you ult. I'm not 100% sure. I literally don't play this champion except in ARAM sometimes. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it works, but I'm not 100% sure. But either way, this is pretty insane. Honestly, like, that is a lot of additional armor pen. The AD scaling is decent too. Like, if Yasuo wasn't already really strong, I wouldn't be that worried about this, but he's already, in my opinion, like the best AD mid laner probably apart from Corki, and he's really, really good into all of the meta mids for the most part. Really good into champs, especially like Ori, Syndra, like Echo, a lot of the AP champs in general. So I think if you're a good Yasuo player, like this is going to be pretty broken, and he's going to be, you know, JR Play is very happy right now. Let's just say that. I think this champ is already broken, so I think it's more broken now, and I'm kind of sad that everyone sucks at Yasuo so that he got buffed. Okay, then we have a Samira buff, so her movement speed increased per like grade increase, so you go from your E to your D rank, etc. Is now going from 3.5% to 4%. Don't think that changes much, you know, you'll be a little faster. It's pretty small though. Then the Flare, your first ability is getting more AD scaling, and your third ability, you get more attack speed gained after using it. So all these things are nice. They increase her damage, they make her stronger, but Samira's problem's not damage. She has a lot of damage. She's very good in that respect. The issue is always CC, people who can shut her down. She's really easy to shut down even when she gets fed, and that type of thing. So for me, I do think Samira, she gets buffed with this, and I mean, in general, engage supports have gotten better recently compared to enchanters. Enchanters are still really strong, but engage supports have gotten a bit better, and so she works a lot better with engage supports, and this buff is decent, helps her damage. I don't think she's weak anymore, but for all of her weaknesses she still has, she's still not a champion you just blind pick. She's not a champ you pick every game. Struggles into high range champions, struggles into high CC, so still a niche pick, but in those niche, you know, scenarios, she's going to be a lot stronger overall. Okay, then we have a Draven buff, and the damage bonus from his first ability is going up 10% AD every level. Again, I don't think it's changed much. I think it's kind of a similar thing to Samira. Like, Draven does a bunch of damage. He's going to continue to do a bunch of damage. His weakness is lack of range and lack of scaling, and those things are for the most part still true. Obviously, this makes the scaling a bit better, but he still has the same weaknesses. So is he going to be stronger? Marginally, sure. I really don't think this changes his place in the meta, though. I still think he's relatively weak, unless you're a really good Draven playing with an engaged support or someone who can really make your game easy. But otherwise, I still think he's kind of weak overall. All right, and then my favorite change of the patch is Thresh getting buffed, because Thresh is really fun. And they're buffing his AD. I'm pretty sure his base AD got nerfed a couple months ago from 58 to 54, and now they're nerfing it, or they're buffing it back up. So back to what it used to be. And then they're also buffing the cooldown by reducing the cooldown by 1% on his first ability for each level. So again, as I've said with pretty much every change, I guess I'm just a broken record. I guess you can kind of predict what I'm going to say. I don't think this does that much because it's very small, but it changes a few interactions. You know, every once in a while, maybe you got someone 1 HP, you end up killing them, or maybe your hook would, you know, be on cooldown or off cooldown 1 second. Or, like, I don't think this changes in general. Maybe you win an extra 1 in 100 Thresh games. That's what I think it might do. But overall, I really don't think this changes much as a whole. All right, so this is actually one of the bigger changes where a champ's strength is getting changed a lot, and that's Nautilus. So Nautilus base health, or not base health, his health per level is going up by 8, and his armor per level is going up by 0.7. His first ability damage is doing 20 more damage per level, and the base damage of the third ability is going up by 10. I think this is actually really big. I mean, Nautilus already has quite a bit of damage for a tank. This damage is getting increased a lot, and he's going to become a lot tankier. So I think that Nautilus is going to be way stronger in the meta than he otherwise was. We kind of talked about before where he fell off a lot because of this, the Veil, the Peel, all the CC, everything. But when he's going to be tankier now, he's going to be doing more damage. He's going to be able to kind of make up for that difference quite a lot. So I think Nautilus is going to be a really solid tank support right now overall. Okay, and now on to the nerfs. So Frenzied Maul, which is Volibear's second ability, is basically going to heal you for a bit less, essentially. And the third ability, Shield Duration, is going to be 0.5 seconds less. Very small changes. Don't think this does much. Volibear, pretty strong champ. Not anything crazy. Still going to be a pretty strong champ. Like, again, I keep saying this, but I don't think this actually changes that much. I'm generally a person who doesn't think that a little bit of a numbers change usually affects much, because to me, what matters a lot more is the champion's general kit and how that fits into whatever champs are being played a lot, how that interacts. And like that type of thing. Usually I think the champion's kit's a lot more valuable than the specific numbers, unless the numbers are really, really overtuned. But these numbers changing a bit, I really don't think it changes much at all. Okay, so then Nocturne's first ability damage is going lower by 15 per level, and you get a little less damage on the trail as well now. Overall, again, nothing crazy. Generally, I don't think Nocturne's an insanely strong champion, but I think he's really good at taking advantage of bad players. His really fast clear speed allows him to get early ganks off, and then again, the ult kind of works really well when people aren't coordinated, which they usually aren't in ranked. So when it comes to ranked, I think he's a good champion for climbing. However, when it comes to his actual strength, I don't think he's necessarily that strong. So this damage nerf, again, doesn't change a lot, but I do think makes him weaker. However, I still think he's going to be a very good champ for climbing overall. Then we have Corki. Corki's base attack damage is going down by 4, and then his third ability damage per second is also going down, and the AD scaling is going down, and then the shredding of armor and magic resist also going down. So Corki is probably the best ADC in the game, probably the best AD mid in the game, and this nerf is more significant than a lot of the other nerfs. The reason that this nerf matters more, even though the numbers look similar, is because he is an ADC, and ADCs have one job, and that is to deal damage. And so when you nerf all of the forms of damage that he has with his third ability, which is what makes it really OP with all that shred, and then you nerf the AD scaling, you nerf his base AD, this is a significant nerf, and Corki probably won't be the best ADC in the game anymore. I'm going to assume something like Varus will be at the very top. Champs like Kai'Sa might follow up, and I think that Corki might be, within that tier of like a Kai'Sa level champion, where he's still going to be really strong, but no longer the very top of the meta. Okay, and on to the final nerf of the patch, and I'm glad we're on the final nerf because I am hungry and I want to go eat food. So the last thing for Seraphine is her second ability cooldown getting buffed, or getting nerfed rather, so it's going up by 2 seconds at every level, and then her shield, AP scaling, and base is both going down. So overall, I mean, Seraphine is a really good support right now, especially if you're trying to have like more impact on the game, because she's kind of one of those enchanters who actually has engaged, who has ways to, like play around your team, or make plays yourself rather, other than, or compared to other enchanters who kind of have to just sit around and hope that their teammates do something. So I think Seraphine is really good right now, and I think this nerf makes sense. I think it actually is pretty significant. The cooldown on your second ability, pretty good, high now, and the shielding being that much lower, it's going to be significant. So I think this champ is probably a bit weaker, but still decent with Ionian boots and everything like that. The cooldowns are still decently low, so yeah, I mean, Seraphine not going to be the absolute best champ, but for like a solo carry kind of enchanter playstyle, she's still going to be really strong. So that's going to be it for the patch. I think it's a pretty good patch, nothing crazy. I think, the Yasuo buff's weird. I think a lot of the nerfs and buffs don't do that much, but they're still good, and I think they're in the right direction. So I would say this is like a B+ patch. I think everything's fine, nothing crazy. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on the patch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.